Hey guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Anthony Salag and welcome back to episode 2 of Weekly Marvel News. Let's get with it. Our first story comes exclusively from Everything Always, in which they claim that Namor, yes, the first ever comic book hero for Marvel, is returning back to home. Everything Always claims that Marvel Studios has made a competing deal with Universal to reacquire, and not only reacquire, but to bring back Namor into the MCU. For those of you who don't know, way back then in the 90s when Marvel was going broke, they had to sell off their movie character rights to multiple studio companies. This led Marvel to having sell Namor, yes, Namor himself, to Universal Studios. Along with the Hulk and his characters, these character movie rights were sold to Universal. But ever since then, Universal hasn't really done nothing with the Namor character. While they have done Universal Hulk movies, they have ultimately failed, which did end up leading Universal to lending the Hulk for Marvel movies. This is why we got in the Hulk in many more Marvel movies such as Thor, The Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame. But now a new report by Everything Always is claiming that supposedly Marvel has reacquired the Namor rights from Universal. So what does this mean? Well, it does mean two things. The first is that Universal has officially given up the license, or if not, have just spent too much time doing nothing, that the license reverted back to Marvel. To keep it short for you guys, if Universal does not do anything with the Namor character for a set of multiple years, then the character's rights officially go back to Marvel Studios. And because pretty much they haven't done anything with Marvel and Namor, this makes sense that Namor would ultimately come back to Marvel. The second thing is what's going to happen with Namor right now? Where is his story going to lead off? And there are honestly two opportunities that we could see him return. The first one is to have his own movie. Now, DC a couple of years ago, it came out with the Aquaman movie, and that movie did well over $1 billion. So it's safe to say that maybe Marvel might pull up something from their sleeve and release a Namor movie. The second option, and that many fans have been speculating, is that Namor could be introduced into the MCU as an antagonist for the upcoming Black Panther 2. Now, we don't know a whole lot about Black Panther 2, but one thing is confirmed, that Ryan Coogler will be coming back to direct it, and it should be coming back in sometime of 2022. If everything goes good, we could expect this movie to come out. Now, many fans have speculated that since Namor is the King of Atlantis, it would only make sense if the King of Atlantis went against the King of Wakanda. Also, Namor did have a little bitty Easter egg in Avengers Endgame. Something about a whole earthquake and whatever. I really don't know if that's true, but let me know how you think about it in the comments down below. In conclusion, whether or not Namor will be coming back to the MCU, or rather joining the MCU, is a big, broad question. Many people are really excited for, because he is technically Marvel's first ever superhero. As for me, I think it's about time that we start exploring different parts of the Earth and what it contains, whether we're talking about superhero wise, and Namor is just a great addition. He brings so much when it comes to character, so much to the history of the Earth, and just a whole new perspective when we're talking about heroes in the Earth. So let me know in the comments down below, what do you think Namor will be doing when he joins the MCU? Will he have his own movie, or will he be part of some other story similar to like the Hulk being a side character? Also, let me know if you guys have any ideas for just anything Namor, casting, movies, plot holes, who knows, anything. Let me know in the comments down below. Anyways, let's move on to our next story. Our next story comes from multiple sources, but the main one that I want to talk about is this story, and that is that the Spider-Man movie rights might be coming back to Marvel. Let's break it down. So everybody knows about the whole Marvel deal. It's a little bit more complicated than the whole Namor and the Hulk thing, but let me briefly explain it. Sony ended up buying the whole Spider-Man rights and his whole characters. This includes Spider-Man, Peter Parker, May, all the villains, and all the characters based on that story. Because of this, Sony has unfortunately acquired this and have throughout the years made the Spider-Man movies, from the Tobey Maguire to the Andrew Garfield and up to 2015. And as we all know in the story, in 2015, Marvel Studios and Sony made an agreement to bring Spider-Man into the MCU. This would then lead to his first debut in Captain America Civil War. So now we are in 2020, and what is up with Sony? Well, here are the details. Supposedly from multiple sources is that the story is as this. Marvel Studios is planning on either buying or somehow getting back the rights of the Spider-Man characters. Now, way back then, about a year ago, it was rumored that Sony insisted that Marvel pay up to $10 billion with these Spider-Man characters. And from what we know, Marvel Studios ended up declining that offer. But now news sources are saying that maybe Marvel is in the negotiating area with Sony again, looking to make a new price. Whether or not this is true, we still have to think about it as a rumor. So when it comes to Spider-Man, where is he now? Well, thanks to us from Kevin Feige and Bob Iger, Spider-Man does have 2 more appearances left in the MCU before either he's completely out of it or a new contract must be made. The whole new picture deal is that Spider-Man only has 2 more movies, 1 solo film and 1 more team-up film in an Avengers, another characters movie, just something else tied with the MCU. Meanwhile, at Sony, they are building their new universe. We already know that they made a Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage crap, they're making a Morbius movie, and there's like 100 of movies in development from Sony. Now, whether or not these 2 companies will be tying in together and maybe we might get a Spider-Man and a Venom 2 is still in the air. My honest opinion, I really hope it doesn't, just because I don't think these characters fully deserve to be in the MCU. But hey, only time will tell what will happen with the Spider-Man characters. Whether or not Marvel will buy the rights back is definitely a questionable thing. From my honest opinion, honestly, buying it now rather than waiting could only just give you more damage. Safe to just end it now than later. But let me know in the comments down below, what do you think? Do you think that Marvel Studios will be buying the Spider-Man rights from Sony? Or do you think we're just going to have to deal with these nasty Sony movies for another 5 years until ultimately Sony is bought out by some company? Let me know down in the comments down below, and let's get on to our 3rd story. Our last story comes from comicbook.com, and comicbook.com basically claims that Spider-Man will be getting his own episode in the upcoming Marvel Studios animated show, What If? Now, the details are as follows. Supposedly, Marvel will be doing something with the Spider-Man characters in the Marvel What If series. While we don't really know a lot about the What If series, the big rumor is that Spider-Man will have his own episode, but in this, he will be taking on the mantle of the one and only Hawkeye. Now, supposedly we don't know a whole much, but basically the whole mantle and the whole story around this episode is that somewhere throughout Peter's life, he's gonna just become Hawkeye and honestly just be the Hawkeye that we know it. And honestly, I don't know about you, I think this is pretty much a cool way. I did notice that Marvel Studios with the What If show are somewhat kind of combining the characters into 2 to give them that better storyline. For example, one episode that we know is already confirmed in this is that what if T'Challa became Star-Lord, and here are some set pictures from that. Now, that whole episode is pretty much as follows. What if T'Challa was the one who got abducted instead of Peter Quill? This will ultimately lead to Star-Lord being taken on by the mantle of T'Challa. And it seems like this new rumor is basing off of that. What if Peter Parker became Hawkeye? You can definitely expect some new things. My only problem is that whether or not Hawkeye, the original Clint Barton, will originally be in this one, or if the Hawkeye mantle was completely made up by Peter Parker himself. But whichever one that they choose, I know that Marvel Studios will make really good animation with this. Also, I don't know if this is a rumor, but supposedly Marvel Studios will begin the mocap suit for the What If series starting in July. This will ultimately lead to the mocap suit being finally done in the Marvel What If. So you can be expecting some hardcore fighting scenes in this animated show. Think of it like Star Wars: The Clone Wars. And one of the final episodes, Ahsoka vs. Maul, was actually mocap by the original people who played them in episode 1. Because of this, I'm also thinking that Marvel Studios is going to be doing something similar to where we are going to get something of a mocap fighting scenario. So you're going to have people playing the characters in mocap suit, and then it'll be translated into the Marvel animated lifestyle. So yeah, you could be expecting some cool fights with this. I'm honestly expecting a whole lot with this mocapping technology. You can definitely get more facial structures. You can get more facial muscle movement. You can get better fighting scenes. Just overall things that you couldn't do with just a simple animator pen and desktop. Also, speaking of what ifs, I do have a couple of what if scenarios that I think that I really hope that Marvel could do. So let me just break it down real quick. Another one that I got is what if Loki became the king of Asgard? I think that this one will be pretty cool just because kind of ties in with the whole Loki show, and Loki honestly as the king of Asgard. Like, imagine everything that could have been different. Also, another one I had, what if Shuri became Black Panther instead of T'Challa? That would be pretty cool, because we could see a whole different light on the Black Panther name, and maybe a different rule on how Shuri would take over Wakanda. Another one that I could see is, what if Bucky Barnes became Captain America? This show will obviously come out by the time the Falcon and the Winter Soldier could come out, so I could expect something along these lines of like playing with different what ifs. And last but not least, I think that they could do something cool, like maybe like a what if Daredevil was in the MCU. This will honestly bring on a perfect way to slightly reintroduce a character from the Netflix series without fully exposing him to the MCU. Start off with an animated show and then make your way up to either the Disney Plus shows or a live action movie. But let me know in the comments down below, what type of Marvel what ifs would you guys like to see? And honestly, what do you expect from the show? Do you expect good animation, good mocapping, suits? Just overall, what do you expect from this show? And that's it for today's video, guys. Thank you guys so much for liking, commenting, and subscribing. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to hit the like button, hit everything else. I hope that this episode was really good. We're really starting to go on with these good stories. And honestly, I can't wait for the future of Marvel, since it does seem like pre-production and production might start away. But either way, guys, I'm your host, Anthony Salig. I'll see you guys next week for Marvel, or for weekly Marvel news. Anyways, see you later.